EIN TV, educative, innovative, and nature centric.
Hello, welcome to another interesting edition of your favorite program on TV, Environmental Research. My name is Eddie Singing in Novo. Well, for the past couple of weeks, we've been running a series on what we call the subnational government uh, climate change policy drive, and then we took a tour across states in Nigeria. And so today we just needed to take a pause so that we could, handle some other issues on the show. Because currently at the moment, about 700,000 uh, people are gathered in Dubai, and about 170 something countries or nations across the globe are gathered in Dubai, to talk about climate change, to discuss, to dialogue, and of course to chat the way forward at the popular UNFCCC conference of the party. And of course, this is the 28th edition of the conference. And I have got some very exciting news already coming out from, Dubai. One of it is that being that the loss and damage fund has been operationalized, and that means nations, of course, especially from the global south, could start accessing loss and damage funds. And we want to believe that the processes and how to access these funds would be quite not so stressful for the least developed countries like Nigeria and some other African countries, and of course other countries in the global south. And then there are a lot of protestations again, talking about adaptation. I watched one of the videos of where uh, Bill Gates was trying to market his seed and, of course, all of those other strategies. And people are asking, when would Africans start, going to this conference with their own with strategy, with their own decision? This is what we want. It is what we want, or nothing. Because already, people are perceiving the products from Bill Gates to be dumped in Africa, like Africa to become the testing ground. It's already a cause for concern. And when we are talking about, you know, uh, colonialism, there's so many forms of it. And we talk about plantation agriculture. And again, when this seed comes into Africa, we there will be that place of, uh, a serious problem to our indigenous crops, indigenous seeds, and every focus will be on them. And then when you are colonized food wise, you know exactly what that means. Because if you do not go back to buy this seed from these guys, you will not have what to cultivate the next farming season. I remember as a child that when we go into the when we plant corn and it's harvest time, we'll take them into the kiln in the house, and the next planting we only have to go into the kitchen, the thatch house kitchen back in the village, and then to have what to cultivate again uh, in the next planting season. And when you do this, sometimes you may even have leftover to sell in the market. So all of this form part of concern. But I'm still excited that the loss and damage fund has been operationalized, and and then I learned, I think there's about pledges up to about $400 million, and I want to believe that will be, a commitment will start trickling in, so that a lot of us, especially Africans and of course other states, countries in the global south, will get to benefit. But today on the show, we have started out something on the um, some days ago. That was about last Saturday, which marked the beginning of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence or violence against women, and of course, girls. And there are a lot of activities. We organization Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development went on awareness campaign. Then the Bless Health uh, organization back over there in Oyo State also had an activity. Then of course it was a blend of events, and then there's been series of conversation around gender-based violence across different organizations and platforms. And today on this show, we had to, see how to have a blend of this conversation. That's how we took a pause on, the series we've been running on. And again, I want to promise that probably we should be looking at how we could, bring in conversation, live feeds from the Conference of Party in the UAE. So today on the show, we deemed it fit to bring in two personalities, of course, a gentleman and a lady, will be, sharing their thoughts on the issues of gender-based violence, especially with regards to the changing climate. What are the triggers? How do gender-based violence happen? What really leads to this? How does climate change, trigger gender-based violence? The first guest I'll be introducing is the Director of Research and Documentation, Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development, Mr. Ekemini Essien. Mr. Essien happens to be a first timer on environmental research. Mr. Essien, you're welcome to environmental research.
Thank you, my brother and friend. It's good to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you
so
so
good to
much.
have you. It's a pleasure, really, and with the stuff you guys are doing at Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development, I understand that you were a critical part of the last outing you guys had in Akwa Ibom, where you visited school.
Yeah.
Would you want to share briefly, say 1 minute or a few seconds about the outreach?
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to recollect what really went down. It was a moment for me. It was a moment of reflection. It was a moment of empathy to lend voice to the ongoing um, uh, avenue to to raise a strong voice against violence against women and girls in our society. So on the 25th of November, we at the Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development, we went to a secondary school in Opaubong, I think somewhere in Itam local government, and we had captivating discussions bordering on the topic of gender balance as well as climate change. And the resource persons did speak on um, you know different arrays of violence that are being targeted at the gender, the women, the female gender. And for me, it was a very good and rousing reception from the students because most of them didn't actually understand that violence doesn't just end with physical abuse. We talked about abuse, including economic abuse as well as sexual abuse. So it was a beautiful moment, and we had good responses from the students, more
Okay.
interactions, and they were wowed by the moment. Okay, okay.
Thank you so very much.
I
I
just
just
want
needed
to.
you to take a second or few more to share your thoughts about that project. So joining us all the way from
Oh,
Ibadan, Nigeria, or your state in Nigeria, is the executive director of Blessed Health Initiative. Uh, her name is Blessing Peter
Blessing.
Akinloye. Blessing, you're welcome to Environmental Resort.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
Um,
it's unfortunate. It rather appears the orientation of your camera isn't fitting to the screen. I don't know if you can sort that technicality so that people can get to see your face properly. And then yeah, beautiful, excellent now. That's perfect, Bless. It's perfect now.
okay, okay.
All right, thank you so very much. How is Ibadan today?
Badon is cool, hot, and all. Badon is fine.
I like it when it is mixed, cool, hot, and cool. Okay, I don't know what is wrong again. Your setting has gone back
Shit.
to how it was before. I don't know if you can sort that out, and then so we can have because I have tons of questions I need to ask you. Okay, so while we're waiting for Bless to sort his technical issues, I'd just like to say a very big thank you to the people who has always made sure that we are here on your screen every other day, every other time, and that is Global Initiative for Sustainable Development, Climate and Sustainable Development Network, and of course Pan African Climate Justice Alliance. Thank you so very much for always making sure that we're here, and to my mentor and boss who is already in Dubai for the Conference of Parties. Uh, Abu Monday, Steve. We want to wish you a very successful stay, and we want to ask I pray that you come back in health, and of course that the deliberation be fruitful, and of course we trust that your contribution shall be very meaningful and impactful for Nigeria, and of course Africa and the whole of global South as a people. Thank you for all you do for nature. We sincerely appreciate you, Mr. Abu Steve. Doubles as the National Network Coordinator of Climate and Sustainable Development, and then to network, and then to the first person that actually joined this conversation today, Mr. Peter Achonamonde. Thank you very much. So, Blaise, I don't know, have you sorted it? Hello, Blaise, can you hear me? Hello, Blaise. Okay, so while we're waiting for Blaise to sort our technicalities, let me get to you quickly, Ekemini. Let's talk about gender-based violence. When the statement is made, gender-based violence, how would you put it in simple terms?
All right. Thank you very much. Gender-based violence, as the word implies, or the statement, or is a phrase, or whatever, talks about violence targeted at persons because of their specific gender. Understand? Now, gender, by gender, I mean either the male or the female gender. So when a violence is targeted specifically at a particular gender, because maybe that person belongs to that gender, because I'm a woman, you're attacking me, because I'm a man, you're attacking me, that's where that's the best explanation to gender-based violence. I'm
Okay,
targeting a violence at you're a man. I'm targeting violence at you because you're a woman. So in clear terms or layman's
okay.
understanding.
Okay. I think that makes it very simple for anybody to understand because there's been a lot of misconception whenever gender is mentioned, people think it's basically about the female gender, and forgetting that also the male folks are you would also term them to be a specific gender. Okay, Bless, welcome. Can you hear me, Bless?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Okay, so you are live, and I just want to throw this at you quickly. I understand
Can
that
you
your
hear me?
organization. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Bless, I can hear you loud and clear. It appears signal is a bit poor as what I have you on my screen from Bless, and signal is a bit poor. Bless, if you can hear me, I will want you to just say a few words. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you. Can you hear
Love,
me?
yeah, lovely. Briefly, I want you to share what happened on the 24th of last month, rather 24th of November in Ibadan. I understand that your organization had gone out for a campaign, of course, sort of, to talk to children and of course get you educated about gender-based violence. How did it go over there in Ibadan?
Okay. Um, can you hear me well now?
Very well. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, please.
All right. Thank you very much. So sorry for the network issues and all. On the 24th of November, we carried out an in-school sensitization campaign on gender-based violence to mark the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls.
Okay. Okay, that was, I trust it was actually very successful. Now let's get to talk about the team, Bless. I need to stay with you. The key thing that talks about, theme that talks about, unite, invest, and the rest part of the, I just wanted to talk briefly about the essence of the theme of this year's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. How significant it is, given the times that we are in. Hello, Bless. Hello, Bless. Can you hear me? Oh well, it appears that signal is not quite friendly over there. I wonder when we'll be free from this particular quagmire of poor internet access in even supposed cities in Nigeria. It's quite unfortunate that someone will be in one of the oldest cities in Nigeria and is suffering from, poor access to the internet. It's rather unfortunate. So once Blaze is able to sort out our technical issues, especially with the internet, I will do my best to see how I can bring her back to the show to join. I don't know, Blessing, Ekemini, do you have anything to share with regards to the significance of this year's theme of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence?
All right. Thank you. I the topic for this commemorative event mark um, programs targeted at preventing violence against women and girls is very significant. I think the theme is unite, investing in waste. So for me, it's
Of course.
a clarion call.
Where should I see?
Okay. Internet access is actually trying to do us a very strong thing today. Like in Nigerian parlance, they will say internet is trying to show us shege, but then we will all come out very victorious at the end. I just wanted to see how I can have these fantastic people, share their thoughts on, the theme of the this year's international, 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. But it appears that the internet signal has been, not quite friendly today. Ekemini,
Okay, I think
can you hear me clearly?
okay. I think I lost connection at some point while speaking. I'm back now.
Yes, yes, please. I just wanted to have your concluding thought on what you were trying to share with us.
Okay, I was saying that the theme is very significant, calling on all facets of the society to unite, to invest in programs, in schemes and what have you, to prevent the violence targeted at the female gender or the girls. And for me, it's a beautiful thing because over time we see that the women folk, the women gender have been left to. Who's connecting again? Hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So the female gender, we have to preserve the female gender. We have to protect them. And for me, it's a beautiful thing because it calls on all facets of the society to unite and invest in programs to eliminate violence targeted at the girls and the female gender. So it's a beautiful thing.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Essien, and of course, especially for the amazing job you guys are doing at the Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development. Okay, let me get to push a little beyond the normal conversation around the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. I understand that the time we are in is called the Anthropocene era, where a lot of human activities has led to the what we call the climate change, and of course, there has been series of impact of climate change across the globe, especially in the least developed countries in the global south. Africa is inclusive, and data are all over the place, showing that women suffers most from the impact of climate change, and we understand that there is a nexus between gender-based violence and climate change. What would you share? Your likely from your understanding, what would you say are likely climate-related triggers, for gender-based violence, or rather of gender-based violence?
Okay, thank you. It's it's so amazing how climate change connects to gender-based violence, and in a way, one would imagine how is that related? How is what's happening in the climate, relating to violence targeted at specific gender? But we know that there's a lot of data and research is ongoing, interlinking gender-based violence and climate change. And one of such is um, talking about scarcity of resources. In extreme climate change scenarios where there are natural disasters, maybe cyclones or whatever that displaces people from their homes and maybe moves them to IDPs, you get to find out that a lot of girls and women are forced out of school, and they are forced out of school, and where they are kept, they may not never be in maximum security. You see, most of them are moved into IDPs where they have to share facilities with the male gender, and that exacerbates or promotes gender-based violence.
Mm,
And all, yeah. So you and besides that, where they are kept, they are limited instances where maybe food is being shared and toiletries or whatever materials for survival, and you see these things are not done in the proper way. The sharing, men will always want to be at the forefront to strive to struggle for these resources because they're actually scarce. So it puts the female gender at risk of at risk of violence. You also talk about in extreme poverty. For instance, if I'm a fisherman and maybe the activities of a certain company operating in my environment pollutes the waterways where I go to fish, and of course, fend for my family from the sales of what I get from the river, that may put some stress on my source of livelihood. Understand? And you see families where the girls will have to be forced out of school because of poverty and therefore pushed into early marriages,
mm,
further exposing them to gender-based violence. So you see there's a lot of connections, and you could even mention wars and conflicts. And, for instance, in at some point in the Niger Delta, there was series of conflict, kidnappings, and what have you, assaults, and you see, and in a society like that, there's usually a breakdown of law and order. The rule of law becomes weak, and the legislations are not able to, provide security and protection for for the women and the girls, and this further exposes them to gender-based violence. So there's a lot of nexus
mm.
connecting gender-based violence and climate change, and
That
I'm sure
that's quite, I like how you related them, and tons of other issues that could trigger the issues of gender based violence. A lot of them, especially with regards to the changing climate. Bless, can you hear me? Hello, Bless, you're alive. Can you hear me? Hello, Bless, you're alive. Can you hear me? I'm trying to see how I can connect with Bless because I want to also have strike a balance between the female and of course the male gender, and of course with different areas of expertise. That's why I had to see how to bring this to fantastic people to come and share their thoughts on the show. But unfortunately, internet has been some sort of immense today. But then we see how it turns out in the end. But I don't know. Since Bless is not on the show, Ekemini, I think you just have to take all of the blows today, and then see how you could strike the balance yourself. And so every form of biases in you, you should. I don't know if I should give you something to swear to so that you wouldn't want to be biased in the course of this conversation until Bless comes back.
Well,
Okay, so let's get to talk about the things, the female gender first, because I understand that you are married. Perhaps you have female siblings who are also,
yeah,
of course, going through the different challenges of life, especially as women. I I was in a community sometime. Hello, Bless. Bless, you are live. Can you speak now? Are you free to speak? Hello, Bless. Can you speak now? You are on the screen live.
and this is
Bless, you are live. Can you speak? Okay. Bless is still trying to see how to sort out our technicalities. So, okay, Minnie, let's talk about the
yeah,
issues, the challenges you've seen women face as a result of climate change. Because I was trying to share a story where we went into a community where, especially you get the instance of the fisher folk. But if you go to places like Ibno in Akwa Ibom, you find out that there's been consistent perpetual uh, flaring of gas where you find out that it burns 247, and then these are issues affecting biodiversity loss, and then causing diversity loss. Talking about loss to land, because of course when there's loss of bio, that place is actually the soil there, the land there is actually um, cannot be inhabited by anything. Say you plant anything, you cannot cultivate anything there. And then you talk about the issue of loss, oil spillage, and then all of this goes into the ocean. And do not forget about I understand that a drop of crude oil can contaminate
yeah,
25 liters of water. Imagine them being pumped in barrels.
absolutely.
So, and then when this goes into the ocean, the we have uh, uh, the aquatic life being affected and what have you. And then you have the fisher folks whose main source of livelihood is basically fishing, and you find these men go fishing. Some may go even 2 days, 3 days, come back with nothing, and in a situation whereby the wife is an housewife, if I put it that way, coming back, the husband is frustrated already over many days in the sea without nothing to, and then coming back home, the housewife of the wife start making demands and all of that. A frustrated man coming back home to meet responsibility that he was even worried out there. Do you think this could, be part of the triggers to what we are facing? Or some people, this is not actually to validate issues related to, gender-based violence. But do you think these are triggers?
Absolutely, it's a very potent trigger to gender-based violence. I was listening to you while you were giving the narrative. You could only imagine what a man who leaves his home as an having the family had, with the intention to go out there and get something and, to sustain the family, coming back with maybe almost nothing because of issues surrounding climate change. And the wife who may not have been attuned with or be in tune with what the husband went through, you know, come and instead of welcoming the husband with maybe pleasantries and hugs and kisses, gives him an array of needs:
Mm.
money for this, money for that, money for that, money for that. Well, it is shown that stress, business failure, and all that cognate similar things is a potential trigger to gender-based violence. A man in this frustration is most likely to abuse the wife. Mind you, it may not be a physical abuse because gender-based violence also covers psychological aspects, psychological, physical, and sexual. So it doesn't really need
Mm.
to be that the man, but verbal abuse, the abuse, the frustration of a man who is not able to meet the needs of the family, raining it on the wife. There's that likelihood, and these things are relative. And is that in the instance that the woman is not able to, be on the same page with the man, she may retort or respond, and this leads to physical abuse and whatever. So there's a very strong connection between climate change. Let's talk about pollution now in the sea, and you mentioned gas flaring, which I don't know why the Nigerian legislation is still weak with respect to gas flaring. And mind you, we are buying gas a kilo for 1,200. Meanwhile,
Mm.
we have a great deposit of gas in Nigeria that should be converted.
And the gas is being burnt away every second of the day.
Yeah. And I learned something, I think, while I was in school, petroleum chemistry, that Nigeria is even a gas deposit. What we have as oil is just a fraction of what we have as gas. So you see, these companies keep flaring gases. I don't know why the Nigerian legislation is weak and has not been able to do anything about this. But it's affecting our sources of livelihood, and it's affecting our families. It's affecting our society. So I think it's high time we spoke against these things. If we want to maintain or have what we we see as family source of livelihood, and all this, we have to speak against these things. We have to
Ab-
rise with a strong.
Absolutely, absolutely. So while it's rather unfortunate that we're unable to have Blaze on this show today, I'm hoping that sometime, someday, I will be able to, bring her on the show. I just wanted to, talk on the way forward because already I was supposed to keep you guys here for 40 minutes and already it's extra 6 minutes going forward, or going rather. I just wanted to, share your thought on the way forward. How do we, combat the issues of, gender-based violence? How do we reduce this to at least the barest minimum? And what is the role of the male folks? What is the role of the society in general? And of course, how do we, bring in the environment nexus, that's the climate change related activities, to see that we can, charter the way forward for a society free of gender-based violence.
Okay. Thank you. To answer that, I would want to refer to part of the work we are doing at Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development. When you identify an anomaly, you first have to speak. You have to educate the people. You have to
Mm,
sensitize the people. So part of what we did, as a measure, as a medium to eliminate violence or gender-based violence in our last outing was to speak to a mixed audience. It wasn't a selective thing, not just talking to the women. We also was a mixed audience where we gathered the students, both males and females, and we sat them down. We talked to them. See, guys, as male, it is your responsibility to protect the female. Understand? You have to build that emotional intelligence. I know it's not always going to be a smooth ride, but you
mm,
have to protect the female gender. They are yours to love and cherish, if I may use that as on a lighter note. So part of the what we do at Blue Green ISD is an aggressive sensitization and campaign, not just in schools but in societies. We go into the rural communities, We talk to the male, the men, and we educate them on how to manage this trace that could lead to gender-based violence. And also, I want to believe we talk about one of the key or one of the key things to consider when talking about gender-based violence is gender inequality. In a society where gender equality is not is not promoted, if there is a certain quota, you always see that the lesser quota is given to the female gender, if maybe in
Mm.
a space of leadership or whatever scenario. At some point, I think the women were clamoring for, was it 35%?
35% affirmative action, I remember.
Exactly. So these things should not even be discussed for so long. These are
Mm.
things that the government legislation should be put to protect, to bring in the women, push them, bring in, embrace them in leadership. Let them also make policies. Let them contribute to policy development. Let them encourage them, and of course education. A woman who knows her right will always be able to speak up for herself. So I even think that's the potent
Yeah,
tool.
I think the woman is here. Oh, unfortunately, again, when I wanted to bring her on, she had to, step aside. But then, I can you summarize your thoughts?
Okay, thank you so much. So I was speaking on education. Anyone who knows that right is always going to speak up. Understand? I even love what you said. Anyway, I wouldn't want to digress, but you see a lot of abuses that are going on in marriages. Women are encouraged and empowered to speak up. You go on the social media, you see a lot of women speaking against violence. That the husband did this, did that, did that. No. So it's a way to promote or to prevent gender-based violence. And then talk about education, talk about sensitization, rural aggressive, just like what we call rural rugged in NYC. They go into the community,
Mm, mm.
encourage leadership, women to be, infused into leadership and policy making. I think this will go a long way, amongst others. Anyway, there are other options. This will go a long way to, prevent.
Absolutely, I agree absolutely. Thank you so very much, Mr. Kemini. Unfortunately, it's been a draggy sort of conversation because we could not have, everyone on board. But then we sincerely apologize that, today had to be like that. But some days in Nigeria, has to be that way so that we could, remember as a people to sit up when it's time to, make the right decision in terms of who we elect into power. We should make the right choice as people. And then yeah, we are counting. We are counting years now that started. So by 20, I think 2027 or thereabout, the campaign to start again. We have to get it right as Nigeria because a country as us, the giant of Africa, should not be struggling with internet access in their major cities. In their major cities at this point. The resources are there, the money is there, stashed up in people's houses and stolen and stashed up in foreign accounts and all of that. But unfortunately, the people are suffering. When it's election time, you will go out there and get 1,000, 5,000 marks, and you're finding yourself a loyal party person without doing the right thing. And in the end, you will still suffer while the children of these people, these men and women, are wasting your money, lavishing in splendor, in wealth,
Foreign class,
in foreign countries.
foreign.
I don't even know. It gets me so angry sometimes. But then it's well. We are talking about how we can avoid gender-based violence, and I wouldn't want to be violent today because we just have to do it right at all times. So, Mr. Kemini,
The rate of violence in
Mr.
Nigeria.
Kemini, since we could not have Blaze, can you just give us your closing shot so we call it a wrap for tonight?
Okay. Well, the people out there, you have to know that gender-based violence is real, and as a society, as a person, as a community, we all have to unite and to invest in avenues, invest in schemes to prevent this from happening. I envisage a society where everyone is able to live freely without harm or fear of any sort. As an I
Mm,
envisage a society where female gender is able to speak up, is able to, take up responsibilities, leadership, make policies that well-being of the society without prejudice. So and you have to know that the essence of this communication was to connect this thing with climate change. Climate change is equally real, and we all have to take action against climate change. Our lands are losing value. Our the ocean is shrinking. Desert is encroaching, and our trees are going off. Biodiversity is disappearing. So all these things connect to make the fact that climate change is real. So I want to encourage us to stay abreast and do what we have to do to be safe.
All right, thank you so very much, Mr. Ekemini Essien. Thank you for sparing your time to come on the show today. And Mr. Ekemini Essien is the director of research and documentation for Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development. I am certain it Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development have actually been one of our partners, so I'd make sure that environmental resource comes your way every other week on EIN TV. Thank you so very much, Ekemini, for all that you do, and of course what the team there at the Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development do. We sincerely appreciate you, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, sir.
All right, gentlemen and ladies, it was such a fantastic night. Away from the glitches we had across diverse locations, and of course, I had said it earlier. As Nigerians, we should always expect this. But then, thank God that we could have someone, at least one of the guests, stay through the conversation. I want to solicit again or demand that the right thing be done in Nigeria. Let at least the city centers, the major cities in Nigeria, and of course, everywhere, at least you have access to the internet. I remember the story of the very sad story that happened in Akwa Ibom sometime, I think 2 years ago, the story of Inyebo Omoro. And imagine if the young lady did not have access to the internet to, raise alarm of what was happening to her, what would have been, the situation. Because the young man would have still been there in that location, causing more havoc, killing more people. But again, as a result of internet access, she was able to raise alarm, though she lost her life, but a lot of other lives were saved in the process. So I want to plead with the government of Nigeria, please make sure that the major cities in this country, in fact, everywhere should have access to a good internet. While others are talking about 5G, we are still struggling with even 2G, 3G in Nigeria. It's quite unfortunate. So, ladies and gentlemen, today on the show, we're talking about how we could, the nexus between, gender-based violence and climate change. And our guests did a fantastic job. But unfortunately, bless Akinloye could not join us. I sincerely apologize on his behalf, but we trust that sometime soonest we'll be able to bring her on. Thank you so very much to all of you, especially Mr. Achana, who stayed all through the show. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you. Mr. Achana joined us all the way from the FCT Abuja. And thank you to everyone out there who make sure that they share our videos, they make sure that our content get across every other platform, and of course they learn a lot, especially you that takes action after listening to our show or watching our show. We sincerely appreciate you, and thank you to Blue Green Initiative for Sustainable Development. Thank you to Pan African Climate Justice Alliance. Thank you to Climate and Sustainable Development Network. Then thank you to media partner we have. The guys. If you go to the bio, you will see one of the the flyers. On the flyers, one of the guys that are actually making sure that we have beautiful views come on your screen, and of course come on your page all of the time. Thank you so very much, Sikan, for making sure that we do this. Thank you so very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be the size of our show. But before we go, I want to ask all Africans out there at the Conference of Party COP28, please make sure that you do not go there for a tea party. Make sure that you speak out what the needs of Africa is or are, because I know the needs are many. Do the right thing. Engage as much as possible and make sure that your voices, African voices, are heard. And without that, you know that you will just waste the resources and contribute even to more carbon footprint, because I know your flight that took you to that place release a whole lot of carbon into the atmosphere. And of course, what we're trying to fight climate change. So that would have been you. instead of going to see how we can curb the impact of climate change or contribute to the development of Africa, to say that debts are being paid off and all of that, or climate debt is being paid to Africa, you are you went there to just have fun and then drink tea and come back. No, that shouldn't be. But I wish you all of you out there a successful deliberation, especially Pakja team and CSZ team over there in Dubai. We wish you a successful stay, and all of your voices will be heard. It is time for the global north to keep their promises, all of their climate promises, all of their financial promises and pledges must be kept. I'm happy that the loss and damage, finance has been uh, operationalized, and I want to believe that we as African people will put our voices together, come together as a force, and see that all of this, that the right thing is being done by Africa. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. That'll be the size of our show for today. My name is Ed Young, Senyin and Dunova. It was a pleasure being your host. Good night, Africa.
This is EIN TV, your one-stop TV space for conversations around nature, societal issues,